see then, right? And this is where one of the favorites lies for the World Cup, Foxy, in Argentina. So we were talking about narratives earlier on where certain teams are kind of going in with a narrative to build. And Argentina's one is essentially, let's win the World Cup for Lionel Messi, who could potentially go down as the world's greatest footballer in human history.
He is widely considered by so many people to be the greatest to have ever played the sport. Like,
Yes.
ever.
Which I disagree with.
Yeah, people have their inclinations about it, but fair enough, the people are just like, when you consider the sheer amount of records that he's broken, the sheer amount of stuff that he's just won, he's just been incredible.
And he's wonderful to watch. Truly, he's a technically beautiful player to watch.
Yeah,
like the ball's glued to him. It's exceptional. It's hard to actually put into words how good that man is at football. It's actually unfair to everyone else, really. But again, the remarkable outlier in the statistics is he's won every competition known to man for club football, but only recently has he started winning for his country. He's been in the Argentine setup since he was 18. He's now 34. So 16 years, he's never won a thing until recently, where Argentina have won the Copa America. So now that's one thing off his list, and now the next thing is the World Cup.
And the reason for that is that traditionally Argentina have fielded hilariously imbalanced teams. Yeah. They have usually been all-out attack, gung-ho, get everybody forward, let's score all the goals. With no semblance of balance. However, recently Argentina have been producing some absolutely stunning defenders and goalkeepers, as well as balanced midfielders but wingers. And this is actually one of the most balanced Argentine teams I have ever fucking seen.
The only problem with Argentina, I think Messi was the reason that he also didn't win a World Cup in previous tournaments, because he had such an influence over picking the team that in the last tournament there was players such as Mauro Icardi and Paulo Dybala who were left at home because Messi didn't want them on the team. But if you look at Nicola Tagliafico, I just love watching him play. He's just a phenomenal fullback. You've got Romero at Tottenham. Otamendi, funnily enough, is better at Benfica than he was at City.
Yes, vastly, actually, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to finally seeing in my lifetime a decent Argentina squad.
The Arturo Martinez is going to be fucking as well.
I can't wait to see him at the World Cup. I hope he lights it up. I really do.
But this is the kind of point where it's almost not necessarily, this is almost a question of balance as well, because it won't necessarily be Messi who wins the World Cup. Yes, he'll be the focal point, and he will no doubt put in an incredible number of chances and goals, because he's also in the form of his life now, playing for a team he actively despises in PSG, ironically enough. There's various different reasons for that. But really, the reason that Argentina could win the World Cup is because they now have a good, solid defense and good goalkeeper in Emi Martinez, who they haven't had for about 16 years, I want to say.
There's been a few who've played great club football and played very few, very few good appearances on the international stage. They've had great. Sergio Romero was, I'm pretty sure, an Argentina international goalkeeper.
Yeah, he was.
Was phenomenal for club, and for country was just bang average.
When Willy Caballero was the opposite, almost, where he made a career of being the Argentine number one, but because the bar was so low, he got kind of club gigs out of it, and then when he got club football, he went, "Oh God, he's terrible." Same with Claudio Bravo.
Did he win the League Cup with City? Did he play like every game?
Yeah. But like I said, he's a famously bad example as an overhyped goalkeeper. But with a really weird specific skill set. He's really good at penalties. He's nothing else outside of
skills.
A very specific and simultaneously incredibly useless yet useful set of skills. It's really difficult to look at this Argentina squad. If you're looking for weaknesses, I don't really see a tremendous amount.
No.
They kind of struggle against sort of counter-attackers because they do play a very high defensive line. You look at
most good teams do.
You look at the game last year against Colombia where Luis Diaz kind of ran wild a wee bit on them. But even then, that's you're picking holes there. This is a superb team from front to back. They're definitely gonna go far. They're gonna go brilliantly. they're going to be fun to watch as well because they do love a fast start. They love to blitz their opponents in the first half of the game. So, like, you're going to get your fucking money's worth watching these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're going to kill it. And also, they're the team chosen by FIFA. And I don't mean the organization, famously corrupt, but by the game. So, you know, the FIFA football game. So what they usually do on most World Cups is they just let the AI simulate the entire tournament. To see
we talked about this earlier.
Unfortunately, Football Manager leans the England route.
Yeah, that's Football Manager, though, not as realistic as FIFA 23.
Fuck.
I will argue
that
that
to get the pop out of Dave.
Any case, so
can we gloss over Saudi Arabia because they are the only team in the World Cup who have every player playing in the domestic league?
I say this totally ironically, Foxy, but Saudi Arabia are the JB of this World Cup. They are completely redundant and unnecessary.
Their players none of them are known because they all play in the Saudi domestic league, mostly for Al Hilal. In fact, I would hazard a guess to say that the entire starting 11 of Al Hilal play as the Saudi Arabian national team because
that'd be fair shout.
I think 15 out of the 26 are Al Hilal.
Yeah, and they're the most prominent team in Saudi Arabia. Like they hold a monopoly there, really.
There is nothing but embarrassment from that team in World Cups.
Yes. Like we famously tonked them 3-0 at a World Cup, which is weird because we never tonk anyone 3-0 at the World Cup. Like we normally draw in World Cups when we're there, typically. So the fact that we did something to them should say a lot about the quality. Yeah. But they are the whipping boys typically at a World Cup. You know, they get there essentially because of the seeding and because they're in that kind of Asian kind of cohort that does get a couple of, and because it's in Qatar as well, they get an extra kind of seeding as well. So they normally favor the area they're in. So like when it was in South Africa, for example, Africa got an extra slot over Europe, let's say, and it'll flip around depending on where they are. But yeah. Don't expect anything from Saudi Arabia. They should be kind of rather humiliated in this group, I'd say.
Yeah.
So Mexico are an interesting bunch as well because again they're a team of cult heroes. Weirdly enough,
Mexico are one of my favorites in this competition. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, Jonathan. Mexico are. I've loved watching Mexico every single World Cup that they've been in, and purely because they are a Central American team with a South American flair to them. Like, do you know what I mean?
Passionate, very passionate.
They love football, and it's when I've watched them previous. Oh yeah. I mean, but you look at 1990 and 1994, right? They were just one of the cult heroes of those competitions because of the football that they played. Luis Hernandez is probably one of the most iconic strikers in World Cup history, and it's just the way they play football and how attack-minded that they are. I just love watching Mexico. They're one of my picks for going at least to the quarters in this tournament.
They're one of the top baby faces, Foxy, is what I would say.
Yeah, that's quite a wild prediction as well because they've never. I think they haven't passed the round of 16
ever.
So you're predicting
quarterfinal at the most. I'm not saying they'll make it any further than that, but I'd love to see them go as far as they can. You know, just they never often say Mexico are one of my favorites, but they are.
It's nuts. Yeah, they do attack ludicrously to a fault. They're the type they just field all their attackers, explosively players. Some really good. They do have actually some pretty good defenders and midfielders as well. So Guardado,
the change as well. Funny enough,
absolutely. So Guardado is a really good. He'll be their kind of rock there. He's got like 177 caps. It's crazy international. That's a crazy.
If I hold on, has he Hector Herrera as well? But is he not Guardado? Is he not represented Mexico? Is this not his fourth and final tournament?
It's definitely his final one. He's 177. Like,
I'm pretty sure he's represented Mexico at the last 4 World Cups or something like that.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a question for you. Like, who has competed in the most World Cup tournaments?
Team-wise or person-wise?
No, person, and then you can tell me team.
Ronaldo's 5. I think Pele has represented in 6. I think.
Which is
Messi and Ronaldo have done 5 for sure, and I think
Messi and Ronaldo have done 5 World Cups each.
Miroslav Klose is 4, I think.
4, yeah. I think Pele's done 6. I think.
Wait a minute. It's fucking.
Because it'd be hard because you need a career of like 24-year span.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Isn't most World Cup appearances? I think that
the highest is a Mexican player by the name of Antonio Carvajal. Believe it or not, this is the list of players who have appeared in multiple FIFA World Cups. It's the highest is 5.
Oh,
okay.
And I believe I'm right in saying he's Mexican. Rafael Marquez has done 5, 2002 to 2018.
I remember Rafael Marquez. Yeah.
Lionel Messi's only represented in 4.
Oh yeah.
This will be his 5th.
This will be going into their 5th.
Same with Ronaldo. This will be his 5th. He's going into his 5th. He's not made it yet. But there's quite a few. Tim Cahill's 4.
Yeah, Timmy Cahill's got 4. Yeah.
Gianluigi Buffon 5.
Yeah.
Not played, but appeared in the squad. He didn't play, but he was in the squad. Yeah. Lothar Matthäus is probably the top. There's 3 with 5, and that's Rafael Marquez for Mexico, Lothar Matthäus for Germany, and Antonio Carvajal for Mexico. So Mexico hold 2 of the top 3.
With Buffon being the kind of outlier in that he was in the squad for one of them, but never played. So
that was when he was at he was at Parma for the 98
very first one back in the late 90s.
Yeah, there was a 98 World Cup when he was at Parma. I think he was in the squad, but he didn't appear.
Never played.
Yeah,
like which is crazy to think because like
it's every 4 years.
Yeah, it's every 4 years. So like that means you have to have a fucking long spanning career.
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised that like there's not more goalkeepers up there because goalkeepers age quite slowly.
Yeah, they can go to 40 and still like obviously Netherlands goalkeepers 40, but they can go to extreme lengths to like 45 and stuff. Like it doesn't really end.
Yeah, Buffon was quite old when he finally. He's still playing in any case, but in terms of actually like amount of matches, obviously Lothar Matthäus, he's got the most games. All-time appearances at 25. Klose is second with 24.
I just wonder what Kira's dreaming about. Oh no, she's awake. There she is.
Oh, kitties.
I'm sorry.
Dreaming about kitties.
Yeah, she's had a long day.
Oh.
As far as countries,
much of Mexico's points, they have very likable players, especially up front. Like the 2 I would pick out would be Raul Jimenez, who plays for Wolves. He's only recently back from injury. Like 2 years ago, he fractured his skull. So he's only recently back from that and had picked up an injury. So he's coming back into this World Cup after being actually tore his hamstring last time. So he's had a torn hamstring and a fractured skull in the last 3 years, which is pretty rough going.
Horrific. And
another player, probably their star player outright would be Hirving Lozano, who plays for Napoli, and his nickname is Chucky.
Chucky Lozano, yeah.
Chucky Lozano, he plays like he's Chucky, like he is a psychopath. But again,
Edson Alvarez is another kind of.
Edson Alvarez is there as well. Yeah, he plays number 6, and again, very scrappy player. And a cult hero to beat all cult heroes is their goalkeeper Guillermo Ochoa.
Yes.
Now this guy again, like this is when we talk about cult heroes. He's such a recent because he has done absolutely nothing at club level in a sense. He's played in Europe, he's played in all this sort of stuff, but his actual best performances happen when he's in a Mexican jersey, and he's a very diminutive keeper, but he just makes so many saves. Like it's actually quite absurd to think. He's now 39, and I think he will just get the number 1 jersey just for Bance alone, to be honest.
Yeah, his breakout was the 2010 World Cup. His breakout was that World Cup, and I fucking love the guy. Just after that World Cup, he's
going into his 5th World Cup as well.
Yeah. There you go.
37, and he is just wow. Like he really outperforms his what they call expected goals on target, so the XGOT data. So he's like the stat man's kind of worst nightmare, in that they expect this guy to ship fucking ridiculous amounts of goals, but he doesn't. In fact, in the last tournament, he made the most saves out of any goalkeeper, and he's just he is just a fucking head case. Like he's really really fucking good. But he's 37. Also weird, doesn't he? He plays a weird. So normally goalkeepers are number 1, or 13 for the backup keeper. He plays an odd. Does he play? He plays the 18 or 8.
At club level, he has a number 8 jersey.
Yeah. At club level, he plays. So the goalkeeper with the number 8 is really, really odd, and he plays that because his name sounds a lot like the word for 8, Ocho.
Yeah,
his name is Ochoa. That's why he plays it. But he plays the number. He plays in the number 13 for the national team because that's the same day that his birthday is.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Very superstitious, clearly.
So that, by the way, that just does not happen. Like it's crazy. Also, recently he did actually receive an offer to end his football career to become an NFL kicker.
Fun fact.
Yeah, that is it.
Yeah.
On to our friends in the East.
Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to figure out the transition there.
I've got a nice one, right? So you know the way players and teams like to do like really intense, merciless training regimes. Mexico don't really do that, and this is one of the reasons why we fucking love them. So 2 weeks before the 2018 World Cup, the Mexican squad bust in 30 prostitutes to celebrate a 1-0 friendly win over Scotland, which was a mild overindulgence. I think you will. I think they stay, according to reports, they staged a 24-hour party in the upmarket area of Mexico City, and had to get ex-Man United striker Chicharito security team. They leaked the pictures to the press. So his security leaked the pictures to the press. It's not even the first time that's happened. In the 2011 Copa America, 8 players were dropped for smuggling hookers into the team hotel. And
just for experience, Foxy, you could also probably have got away with that in Glasgow as well. Had they have played there, wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. Wouldn't have mattered. Cocaine, hookers, that's Mexico. It would have worked in Glasgow too.
Yeah. So if you want a weakness to this Mexico squad, it's scoring goals. They don't really score a tremendous amount, and that squad is getting old. They're going in with the second oldest team in the tournament.
Yeah, so they're ailing as it were. So they would probably would be a comfortable second place in this group, but Poland are that kind of very curious team that have good players. Like to an
extent, they have like 7 decent players.
7 decent players, but they are like chronic underperformers at tournaments.
Yes, absolutely.
Like I have never seen Poland actually play well at a tournament in my lifetime. They're either bottom of groups, they're eliminated early, and it seems like such a disservice because their number 9, their striker, is Robert Lewandowski, who is an absurdly brilliant striker. He's phenomenal. He's a monstrosity for scoring goals. So the fact that he can't do anything at an international level because his team just isn't good enough.
They bore the whole off you.
Yeah, and that's essentially it. They play very attritional styles, and I think there'll be certain countries and certain teams that have good players, but they play a style that's so unpalatable that it makes you kind of like dislike them. So like I remember, I think it was the Russian World Cup 4 years ago where they got completely dumped out of the World Cup without even scoring a goal. And again, this is Lewandowski up front. This should not happen. The man averages a goal a game wherever he plays. Like it's ridiculous. It's insane.
But they've got Matty Cash this year.
Matty Cash.
I can't wait to see what chance they come up with for this lad from England.
Yeah, from this Nottingham-born Polish player. But that's the thing. Like, see, like that, this team are like they do have better players in this time out.
They do have better players, but they're going to be playing the same way. So if you look at the stats, they complete the joint most open play crosses per game. So basically, they've got strong, athletic fullbacks who are just going to bomb up and down that flank and fucking huge amounts of crosses to their main striker, which is Lewandowski. Again, they do have other players that are really, really good now. So they've got 2 in particular. One is called Piotr Zielinski, who is on fire for a fucking global
3 seasons now. Like he's been consistently outstanding for 3 straight seasons for Napoli. 3 straight seasons. I have not seen him have a bad game.
Oh no, and Napoli this season, they're killing everyone all over the world. They're just running wild on Europe. They've come out of nowhere and they're wiping people out left, right, and center. Brilliant.
Including Liverpool. It's my demise.
Yes. Very so. So and also they got players like Krzysztof Piatek.
He came through AC Milan's youth system. He's a he's a decent striker who's really just he's underperformed when it hurt him the most. Really,
Yeah.
Given a chance at Milan, absolutely tanked it.
Yeah. So,
and Arjus Milik is in that category as well. Like realistically speaking.
Oh God, yeah.
Not quite hit his potential yet. But again, so that's Poland with like 3 pretty good, decent strikers. But again, they only field one, which is Lewandowski. they only need him realistically. Like, you know, they don't need a deputy there. He's good enough to score the goals on his own.
I just instantly think of that fucking scene from Waterboy. It's like, what's the plan? Give the ball to Bobby.
Quite hilarious.
Give the ball to
Pretty
Bobby.
much, yeah.
Quite hilarious. There was
Yeah.
a photo that went around here. I'll share my screen again, right? Of the club goalkeeper, of the national team goalkeeper, another spectacular head case called Wojciech Szczesny, and the team manager. And this was the tactics board, right? You know, and that's up there. So as you can see, they're holding up the tactics board, and the tactics board is basically a picture of a bus in front of their own goal, and Lewandowski up the front. And what I really, really love is that over here, they've actually...
There's a centre mid.
No, that's the manager. That's
right.
It's
Like
that's his initial.
that's brilliant.
I cannot pronounce his name. I will not attempt it. But yes, that was apparently that was their tactics board. That is the manager and the
Czeslaw Michnovic.
Yeah, I'm fucking saying that. But yeah,
that's a commentator.
Oh, there's a passport. There's a Matty Cash passport.
That was the Matty Cash. That's where I got the photo. So yeah, your move, Messi. So as you've probably already alluded, if you're looking for weaknesses in this Poland team, it's keeping the ball and dealing with the opposition.
Or football in general for Poland.
1 against fucking 10. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, it's basically they can't control games. They've got centre backs who are good at defending in their own box, but if they have to step outside that white line, they kind of shit themselves. So that's great, by the way, for the modern mobile forward. It is for a defender to sit in his own box, not really do a whole lot. You're like, I could do so much here. I can run rings around this motherfucker. They don't keep a lot of clean sheets, and they don't, that's pretty much bad. Famously, in one of their qualifying games, when they shipped like 2 goals to the Netherlands in like 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. So they don't have a lot of strength of depth either. So I'm not entirely optimistic for this Polish team. I want to like this Polish team. I quite like this Polish team. They're one of the few teams that won't really say a whole lot about the whole thing in Qatar. Basically because they're too busy giving all of their support to the Ukraine. So 2 or 3 of the players have Ukrainian wives. In fact, the goalkeeper I showed you there, Wojciech Szczesny, his wife is Ukrainian. So that's
and incidentally, their team plane was escorted by 2 F-16s in case they were hit.
Yes,
by Russia.
That was on the way to Qatar. Yeah, they were escorted by 2 F-16s. That's correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Geopolitics.
The thing is, the captain's armband that the captains wear on the pitch, it's usually just like a black and white thing. A lot of teams now, to protest against the Qatari LGBTQI oppression, it'll be a rainbow. For Poland, it's a Ukrainian flag. So that's kind of where their morals lie with this. So that's why one of the things why I really want to like this Polish team and why I want them to go far. They're not going to though. No. if I want to be realistic.
Intentions are well-meaning, but
yeah.
But they don't have the skills to back up.
Yeah,
they don't have the skills and they don't have the depth either.
No. Yeah, I mean, before we hit the next group, FIFA is now in a contractual nightmare with Budweiser because Qatar have backtracked on every agreement to do with beer and have banned it completely now. Not just from the stadiums like they said originally.
It's now banned in the fan zones.
Completely from the World Cup. 2 days before it starts.
That is crazy.
So England fans might as well turn around now.
Fucking hell. That's hilarious.
Well, so Group D then has 2 very interesting teams in it and 2 teams that are not. So it's a very binary group, this one. So France are the defending champions. They won had a bit of a canter in the end in the last World Cup. They were just comfortably the best team. But they were a team. They were a good example of a team that kind of found their groove basically in the World Cup and just stuck to it. Now the problem with France this time around is that the two teams that kind of were the two players that were basically the fulcrum of the team are both injured in Pogba and Kante. So basically, you have a wonderful balance of the selfless in Kante and the selfish in Pogba, and they kind of were basically a yin yang in midfield. But both of them are now injured, and they're not going to be at the World Cup. Yeah. And the fact that they actually have more injuries now happening at the time.
Yeah, we did state in our in our Monday Madness podcast there that they're also, not only are they missing both of their first choice centre midfielders in Kante and Pogba, they're now also missing both their first choice. They're probably going to be missing their first choice central defenders in
Sembe and
Varane, yes.
Upamecano was missing. Sembe. They're missing two centre backs, two midfielders, and their most prominent attacker midfielder in Christophe Nkunku, who is averaging a goal a game so far this season. So he's out injured. He literally pulled up the last match before they were to fly out. Last week. So that's a shame. But so they're missing 5 prominent players. Now the wonderful thing is with France, they probably have the deepest talent pool of the lot.
Holy shit, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's absurd. They've literally been able to replace 2 experienced, wise players with 2 hotshot prodigies.
They've replaced 2 World Cup winners with 2 future Champions League winners.
Yeah, they will. Absolutely, no doubt about that. They've been able to replace Pogba with Tchouaméni, who plays for Real Madrid, and they replaced Kante with Camavinga, who also plays for Real Madrid. They're both 21. They replaced one of their centre backs with Ibu Konate, who plays for Liverpool, who's 22, and he's a brick shithouse. So they have not lost anything with these replacements, No,
Jules Koundé as well for Barca. I mean,
yes, very good defender. So this team is kind of got younger almost by accident and not by design. But again, they have now a secret weapon this season, which is the return of Karim Benzema, who's just won the Ballon d'Or, which is essentially seen as the award for the best player in the world at that moment in time. So you've now got a front line of Benzema, Kylian Mbappe, who is the heir apparent to the Ballon d'Or, essentially, and Antoine Griezmann, who is this perennial cocksure player who does perform for his country, but it's just such a massive prick that I can't actually respect him that much.
When he scores goals, he does Fortnite victory dances as a celebration,
which obviously should be punishable by death in Qatar. But
he literally needs to be speared through the eye socket with the corner flag.
Yes,
I fucking hate that shit.
I utterly fucking hate.
See, France is a weird thing where all the kind of the ego and the pomp and ceremony actually works really well for them, because
when it works,
it does.
Here's the other thing. So, France has been summed up with 3 words by other people. Those 3 words are weird sexual psychodrama. So basically, France always throw up weird plot lines every single major tournament. So we spoke about their mutiny midway through the 2010 tournament, to the glorious area of where they were blackmailing each other with sex tapes. Because the guy up front, Karim Benzema, has a 1-year suspended sentence for doing that. So yes, he literally blackmailed one of his own teammates. Who was it? It was Valbuena, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Matthew Valbuena.
Yeah.
With it. So basically he was acting like a liaison between the violent thugs with the sex tape who were blackmailing him and the player, who was a famously kind of very sensitive sort of player. But then it later turned out that the violent thugs that he was apparently acting as a liaison with were his mates. And the sex tape he gave them. So that's the kind of guy they've got leading the line here.
And in 1998, the country was on the brink of political civil war until they won the World Cup and everything was cured.
Yes.
Essentially, yeah.
Jacques Chirac, ladies and gentlemen.
But also another thing, there's also a good reason as to why there's a good silver lining to Paul Pogba not being at this tournament, because he's been accused by
his
own brother Matthias of hiring a witch doctor to perform black magic on Kylian Mbappe to curse him. if you look at pictures of the 2016 Euro final, it was actually there was a cloud of moths that descended on the stadium and got in the way of everything, and it was like biblical plague shit. And apparently he was the result of that. He'd apparently asked for a plague of butterflies, but got moths instead because he didn't pay the witch doctor enough money. I've made none of this up.
For fuck's sake.
Vive la France.
And even then, even off the pitch as well, there's yet more stuff. So one of their players, Adrien Rabiot, his mother is a complete head case. She acts as his agent and manager, and she took over his career. His dad had a mad accident. He is locked in syndrome. You know that one? That's really fucking horrible syndrome. So his mother is famously overbearing, often showing up to berate managers when he's not picked. He's in his 20s now. It's not like he's a footballer. So she has a tendency to attack the parents of the other players if they don't perform very well.
The water boy again, Foxy comes to reference.
The water boy again, yes.
Football is a devil.
Yes. So
isn't that a devil?
Yeah, to the point where she's been actually banned from the team hotel. She cannot come anywhere near the team hotel. So yeah, let's see what that is. But France are easily one of the favourites for the tournament. Sure, they won the last one. They're the defending champs.
Pretty much, yeah. Like the team outside of the people they've lost, they haven't changed that much. Because it's the same, still the same manager, still the same core there essentially. But the key thing is, like, they rather crashed and burned out of the Euros, which was very unlike them because they were favourites for that tournament. And they lost in an extra time, kind of like blitz of a game against Switzerland.
Yep.
But we'll get to Switzerland eventually.
We'll get to Switzerland eventually.
But ultimately, the best thing about it is that Olivier Giroud is still in the squad.
Absolutely.
And he's a very, very attractive man.
Very, very handsome man. So if you're looking for a weakness in France, it's themselves. They love a self-destruct. And that's what they're... In terms of World Cup preparation, they've actually had their worst in the run-up to this one. They've lost 5 of their last 6 games. They lost 3 times this year, which, by the way, is their joint most in a calendar year. And it's the first time they've ever done that under Didier Deschamps, their current manager. The last time they did that was 2010, when they finished bottom of their qualifying group without scoring a single goal. They crashed right out of it, and they'd won the tournament that previous year again. So we're looking at that cyclical history shit.
History could repeat
lots of people who think, time's a circle rather than straight line stuff. There, France are giving them that nice bit of meat to their theory there. So we'll just have to see. Will they win it or will they self-destruct? And it will be hilarious.
Yes. So they're joined by Australia, who were the last team to qualify for the World Cup. They had to go through Interconfederations playoff. Basically, this is the back door in the kind of GAA equivalent, right? So they had to beat Peru to get through to the World Cup final. And we mentioned actually before we started recording was thanks to penalty heroics by Andrew Redmayne, who just basically psyched out the Peruvian team with his goal. You actually look it up; it's fucking hilarious what he does. But literally this team is not very good, realistically speaking. Now the Australian team have had kind of like fun players in the past, particularly in the last 10 to 15 years. Tim Cahill has been a perennial Evertonian, like he played for Everton for years and years and years and years.
Yep.
And was perhaps their Australia's best player for a long time. Not a technically gifted player, but just a hard-working, grafting type of player. But they also did have like good players back in like the likes of Harry Kewell and Mark Viduka. That era, the Australian team were great because he had good deputies to come with. That team is not there anymore. Like their best goal players are probably their goalkeepers in Matt Ryan and Andrew Redmayne. And Neil's going to depart now, and myself and Dave will take over from here. So they've had to essentially pin their hopes on a lot of bang average players. Their best outfield player is probably Aaron Moy, who plays for Celtic now.
Martin Boyle.
Because and Martin Boyle, yeah. A lot of players who play in the Scottish Premiership, which is not a particularly strong league in Europe at the moment.
I will take this Australia talk and put a positive spin on it. They will not get far, right? I know I say positive spin, they won't get far, but still, the amount of Scottish players from the Scottish Premiership that are representing Australia has boosted the league here massively, right? So the funny thing is that the 3 of these players in this squad have played for Hibs. Martin Boyle's dad is a friend of mine, right? Fucking nut job, by the way. And same Martin Boyle. Martin Boyle's a fucking nut job, right? Jason Cummings, here's a little here's a little here's a little good this ties into wrestling, Foxy. So Jason Cummings has wrestled Grado at the Hibernian Training Centre here in Edinburgh. He has wrestled Grado in his underwear with cum dog written in permanent marker across his chest. That's his wrestling name. That's his wrestling name, right? Cum dog has wrestled Grado in the canteen of the training centre in Scotland for Hibs. The video is on YouTube. It is widely available. That happened.
Link is down in the description.
I'm going back to sleep because my dreams and nightmares are better than that.
Yeah.
God, no.
This shit happened. However, both Martin Boyle and Jason Cummings both won the Scottish Cup for Hibs in 2016, right? So if you had said to me in 2016 that these 2 lads are going to be up front for Australia at the World Cup, I would have laughed at you and thrown a pint in your face. Jamie McLaren, dog shit for Hibs, dog shit for Darmstadt, but for some reason goes back to Melbourne City and makes the World Cup squad. Decent striker, but I think with Australia, the biggest problem they're going to have is that I'd say 10 of these players who are in this squad at the moment have never played with each other.
Yeah.
They will have no experience of playing with each other because some of the call-ups that have happened they weren't there during the qualifiers. They got called up because of their current performance, and I feel bad for some of the players that got them to the World Cup because they're not actually there.
Yeah.
But a lot of these players who've been called up, especially the Hearts players, will have played prolonged campaigns with the team. And that inexperience is going to put them right down the foot of the group. However, watching them get there has been an absolute joy to see Australia get there.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think they're going to be the way they were at the last World Cup. Just the crowd is going to make the game, not the players. The crowd is going to make the game.
Yeah, they often are also rans in World Cups anyway.
Yeah,
but that's to be expected because like the squad has never been that strong anyway.
No,
they're always there, but they're always like it's just nice to have Australian fans there. Essentially,
Matt Ryan is a legend, not only in Australia. Like Matt Ryan, they're effectively their number one. Has been around for so long that like everyone knows who Matt Ryan is. Everyone loves Matt Ryan because he's actually fairly decent as a goalkeeper. He's probably would rank in the top 100, but I would say that this will be his last tournament.
Yeah, should be. So yeah, that'll be it. This next team now, you wouldn't think when I say that they're dark horses, but they really are fucking dark horses for this World Cup.
Fucking hate them.
Denmark. So
they're getting sick of the sight of the fuckers. Like
they have been a thorn in Ireland's side for various different reasons, mainly because they make us look fucking stupid every single time we play them. But it's not hard to do. It's not hard to do at all. No,
never stop drawing them.
We never don't. Yeah, we always seem to get them. But the gas thing about it is that they are a very good example of what Ireland could have been if we had our shit together 20 years ago in setting up a football system. The Danish side and the Danish country, I think, are the most coordinated and perfectly constructed footballing system right now in the world.
It's the happiest country in the world.
It's the happiest country in the world, and they play the best football in certain aspects. They have absolutely maximized what they could from a very small population and a country that has in the past would have been like, holy shit, what are they doing there in the final? Now this is a team that have already won. They've won the Euros back in 1994. So this is not a coincidence or anything like that. They've had the odd Danish superstar, Kasper Schmeichel. Oh, 92, you're right, Dave, thanks. So they've had famous Danish players in the past, like Peter Schmeichel. Yondal Thomason, Romadal, all these players who were like Peter Lovenkrands as well for Rangers.
Was Laudrup?
Michael Laudrup, yes, exactly. Yeah, Laudrup was another one. Who played for Barcelona. So the one-off players, in a sense, have kind of like now become a team of iconic players. But it's not just that for Denmark. It's not as easy as just saying that they have now the fantastic footballing system. They now have a reason to win, because in the most recent major tournament in Euro 2020, during the Denmark-Finland game, their best player, their playmaker Christian Eriksen, collapsed. He had a cardiac arrest on the pitch. He was actually he was clinically dead for a couple of seconds. It was only because the team captain Simon Kerr, who basically did like on the pitch CPR and kept him alive until the medics got to him in time and stabilized him. Otherwise, he would have died of a heart attack there and then. So this was obviously a story that went throughout the Euros then, and people were obviously kind of like moved by that to the extent where they were supporting the Danish team as almost their second team. So this Danish team, without their best player, still managed to get to the quarterfinals of the Euros, where they were eventually, or semi-finals of the Euros, where they're eventually beaten by England, who got to the final, of course. So the story didn't end there though, because Christian Eriksen did come back to football. Shockingly enough, he did pass fit and passed all the checks. He played for Brentford initially, which is the team actually owned by a Danish conglomerate, and they have a strong Danish contingent in that team. In fact, I'd say a good percentage of the Danish team are actually
the midfield, the core midfield. Damsgaard, Norgard, and Jensen are all Brentford players.
They're all Brentford players, so you know each other very, very well, and that's by design as well, because Brentford have a tie-up with a team in Denmark called Midtjylland. They're both over the same team. So they trade players all the time, so this is all very intentional. Eriksen has now since joined Manchester United, and he's now playing his football back at a top level. So now he's come back into a Danish side that has now since improved on the time that they got to the semi-finals in the Euros. And they are being widely tipped. They are one of those teams that you need to keep an eye on, because
semi-finalists potentially. Like you're looking at these guys being in the last four of the World Cup. Well, I would anyway.
I would. As teams go, they are the most cohesive and most coherent. Like it's very, very strong across the pitch. Again, they use their talent very, very well. They don't have many of them in a sense, but what they do have is good depth somehow. They've still been able to make a good 25-man team out of a very small population, you know. And I mean,
Lindstrom's 22. He's won the Europa League with Eintracht Frankfurt, and he's probably their best player.
But he's only broken out this year. That's the absurd part. It happens every year. They find another Danish superstar, you know. And Damsgaard was that 2 years ago, replacing Eriksen. He literally like for like replacement, and Damsgaard took the world by storm. And now plays for Brentford in the Premier League.
Now Lindstrom's gone through this, you know, talisman for them in the Europa League final, beating Rangers. And now, you know, coming into this tournament of 22, he's one of the best midfielders at the moment in the Bundesliga. He's going to be one to watch for your young breakout with the likes of Chukwuemeka, Camavinga, you know, all these guys. But I think Lindstrom's going to be right in there with that kind of midfield one to watch. Yeah.
And like I said, because now they have that kind of incentive now to try and do well for Eriksen as well, because he's now back in the team, not believing that he'd be fucking alive to even see the World Cup. There is that kind of extra babyface push, shall we say? I think out of everyone in the World Cup, they're the top baby faces, because people want this team to do well, you know. And I think that's kind of shared by most fan bases, I'd like to think. The other team in this group will be Tunisia, who again came through from the African qualifications. They got through really because there's a bit of a dearth in performance in the bigger African teams this year. Like usually you see teams like Nigeria and Ivory Coast sailing to qualification. Same with Egypt. And maybe somewhere like along the lines, you might see a good South African team get through and so forth, and you wouldn't hear of the Tunisian team. But really, it's just a very poor campaign for most of them, has meant a coherent enough Tunisian side without very massive superstars has got through.
They don't have anyone, you know, one of their players in midfield is literally a Manchester United academy player who's never seen a drop of senior first team football.
But his name is Hannibal.
Yeah,
Mabry,
Hannibal Mabry, right? Hannibal Mabry. He's literally still in the academy system for Manchester United.
You don't know with Birmingham, isn't he? I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think I think he went on loan in August. I think they put him on loan there. But this is a team who is I don't mean any disrespect to Tunisia, the most irrelevant team in this competition, with the exception of Wabi Kazri.
Yeah, because there's no household names. There's no one really that you can.
They're like Saudi Arabia
outright. Yeah, and Saudi Arabia as well. Yeah, but like that's the beauty of the World Cup. You'll find somebody that could be in this Tunisian side that's really really good. You don't know, but that's the curiosity of it. But yeah, on face value, they don't look like great shakes. They'll be probably lambs to the slaughter by like France and Denmark predominantly. Australia might get a result against them. You never know.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah, but like they be the whipping boys of this group, unfortunately, which is often the case for teams that come kind of like 4th or 5th from these type of confederations. You know, like the Saudi Arabias, like your Tunisias, they tend to be the plankton to the bigger sea life in the groups. You know, but yeah, you never know. You might spring a surprise because a lot of the teams have qualified for a reason. They've had to have been good to get there. So they need to, you know.
And not to break away from the football, but it is officially Laura's birthday.
Yay! Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So this group is interesting enough. So Group B is Spain, Germany, Japan, and Costa Rica. 4 heavyweights of football, Foxy. I'm sure you'll agree. So yeah, no. In all seriousness, no. Like Spain and Germany are 2 of the most defining countries when it comes to how football is played. 2 very different styles, 2 very different schools of thought, and they're both in the same group. Fucking delicious.
And what's really funny, right? What's really really funny about Spain is, like, they were irrelevant in, dare I say, the 20th century football for the most part.
Yes.
Were nearly irrelevant. No, actually, I could say that. 20th century football, they were absolutely irrelevant to the point where Northern Ireland beat them when they were the hosts in 1982.
Jesus.
Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
That's how irrelevant they were in 20th century football. Like, they never did anything of any relevance. Then obviously, you know, turn of the century happens and they just get this influx of talent because Real Madrid and Barcelona started to get that monetary juggernaut from, you know, the boom of the early 2000s and the late 90s. The revenue was going through the roof. The biggest thing for them was the late 90s when they signed, early 2000s when they signed Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo, Nazario. You know, that was the Galacticos era is what brought Spanish football effectively to the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah.
For the most part. Exactly. And not because it was Spanish players or anything like that. It was just people started to notice Spanish football a lot more, and then it grew from there in the kind of academy system. How they developed players changed, and they basically took it from the way France were doing it at the time, because France were like in the 90s, you know, and how they developed players, and Spain kind of took a little leaf
Italian
from that,
clubs as well, but they didn't develop their own players. They just bought in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the difference.
And now, you know, they won. Was it World Cup, Euros, World Cup? Or was it just
they had probably perhaps one of the best national teams outright, because they won 3 on the bounce, which is exactly what you said, Dave. But then the decline was there. But the golden era that was there, like, it also kind of coincided with perhaps the best time that La Liga has had, where you can say the quality was better than the Premier League and the money was better as well.
The Champions Leagues were going to Spanish clubs. Barcelona ruled under Pep Guardiola. Real Madrid ruled under Zinedine Zidane. The Spanish clubs were just thrashing everyone. Atletico will win the Europa League. Even the secondary European tournaments were being ruled by Spanish clubs. It was just all over the place.
Sevilla, Villarreal, they had a monopoly on Europe at the time. And hilarious enough, it was all down from the wake of having Ronaldo at Real Madrid and Messi at Barcelona. Everyone was coming to see the Spanish league. And it's a good example of when the domestic league then actually kind of like turbocharges the national team. You know, this has not really happened for France or England, where like it's almost like the talent's been there, but not in the league, kind of way. So it's kind of worked the opposite. But Spain were gifted with a golden generation of talent, and they put them to work. They made good use of them. The best midfield to have ever existed will probably be Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets.
Yeah,
three players who have essentially complement each other so much that they are now the yardstick to how
the 4-3-3 formation was, you could almost say, created at Barcelona.
Yes,
the wide players you had,
style of football as well.
Yeah, Busquets was holding midfield, Xavi and Iniesta, in the central midfield positions, the wide areas, and Messi. Messi in the wide areas, and then you had the strikers up front as well. Like, just the 4-3-3 system was basically almost championed by Barcelona. But this is the worst Spain team I've seen in over a decade. This is probably the worst Spain team I've seen in a generation. And that's putting it lightly, because this Spain team, on paper, not saying they're going to do terrible, looks horrific.
They're in that kind of weird juncture where like they have very old players and very young players, no one quite in their peak yet. In 4 years' time, this team is going to be superb.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying
those players are going to peak, but not now. It's just a little bit too early for them. But they will have a good. I think they'll do better than most people will be saying. Like
they'll do okay. Like they have the quality to get to the the knockout stages. But I mean, they haven't got a predominant goalkeeper anymore.
No.
I mean, one of them's from Brentford, Brighton, Bilbao. That's the three goalkeepers they're taking. Alejandro Balde is still only 19 or 20 at Barcelona. He's very young. Jordi Alba's too old. Laporte, solid. Pau Torres, not good enough. Hugo Guillamon, not good enough. Like, they just have players who are they don't complete the midfield like they used to be able to. Yeah. Like, they just don't have, they have a lot of young and a lot of old. And there's, like you said, in 4 years' time, this is going to be a beast of a team again. But Dani Olmo is just not good enough for me anyway. Sarabia, not good enough. Asensio, past his prime. They just don't look like a team that can absolutely ramp the World Cup. It's probably it's not their fault. I'm not saying it's their fault at all. It's just, for me, looking at that Spain squad, it just looks very underwhelming for what we're used to.
What we're used to, exactly. Like you're still going to compare them to that Del Bosque era Spain side that did rule the world.
Oh yeah,
for want of a better word. But like I said, like they have made the kind of the stylistic choice, let's say, of certain teams. Like probably the most well-known Spanish goalkeeper at the moment is the United keeper David De Gea, but he has one particular weakness to his game, which is that he can't pass the ball, which is a weird thing to think. Like, for a goalkeeper, all he has to do is save it, but nowadays he's required to play along with the centre backs. So he can't do that anymore.
He came through that era of, or he came through. When he was trained, that this play out from the back style wasn't there. He's had to adapt this. Like, a lot of people give him shit, but I kind of understand where he's fallen down, because this play out from the back only came in the last few years.
Yeah, it's very recent.
Dominated football, so he's had to go from the goal kick to playing out from the back, which he's not used to. He's never wasn't brought up that way. He was never used to that, and that, like, I hate it. I hate the whole playing out from the back thing, but that's just me. But that's why he's faltered. I genuinely don't think he's entirely to blame for that, because he's not been able to adapt his game to play out from the back. And when you're passing out to Harry Maguire, you fucking no chance.
Exactly. You're never
he never stood a bloody chance with that. But I digress.
But the gas thing is, like, the person to probably blame for that is actually the number one for Germany, who's actually Manuel Neuer, who kind of is the pioneer of what's being called the sweeper keeper. Is a goalkeeper who essentially plays like an outfield player. And again, this is a very recent addition, but it's a skill set that's almost exclusive to him only, where, like, he can play the ball like an outfield player. He has the acceleration to be able to get back into goal to prevent being caught, essentially.
Yeah.
Now he's obviously getting older and he's not been able to do that as well. But now a lot of, like, main teams want a Neuer style goalkeeper, because, again, with a goalkeeper, you're almost like, you have a goal, whatever it is, but if you have a goalkeeper that also plays ball, it's like having another outfield player to start off your phase again. So it's like getting an extra man just for a brief moment to start your game going. So Neuer was that kind of player for Bayern Munich, and because Bayern Munich has a stranglehold domestically in the league, they will never get tested or tempted by anyone else. You know, they will buy their rivals essentially, and that's the kind of the food chain over there, which is quite common in some European leagues. So with Germany are kind of in the same headspace as Spain almost, where they are in between a golden generation and a stale generation. So
I'm gonna have to call it a day, folks. I do apologize.
No worries, Dave.
That hour where I have to pull a and enjoy it and just lie in bed and go sleep.
Likewise, Dave. Go on, I'll talk to you soon, pal. All right.
Talk to you soon, guys. And don't forget, this is a series, right?
Yes. So we're doing streams after this. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool.
It's
happy days. Right. I hope you learned a lot, Foxy. I know it's a lot for your brain to process.
It is a lot.
It's taken me my entire life to get to this point. So hopefully by the time you're 85, you'll understand what we're talking about.
Back in my day, this was it.
Where we're playing international competitions on other planets. Anyway, I will catch you all later.
Thanks, Dave.
And
see you, Dave.
Have a good one.
I did.
So I'll finish the rest of the groups and we can call it a night then. So Germany are in that kind of that point where 3. So yeah, they're but the big ones are kind of done. So Germany are in a stage where they've won the World Cup 2014. Yeah, it was 2014. So they won the World Cup in 2014, and that was a long time coming. Because again, they've always been in the conversation, but never actually put it away. And they finally got the right players to do it and the right coach to do it. But much like a lot of these kind of dynasties, they properly crash and burn. And they did crash and burn famously in Russia. With Yogi Joachim Low as the coach. Very strange man. Very, very strange man. Famously, like he always keeps getting them. He always seems to have really weird stuff with his body odor. Like he always got like sweaty pits and all that. And he keeps getting kind of caught like sniffing his pits and stuff like that. Very odd, but very strange man. But the team soured on him, and the German FA really liked him. So he got basically 2 extra years, and the Euros just collapsed in on themselves. They got eliminated like in the group stages, which never happens for Germany. It was completely erratic. So what they did do was they replaced him with a man called Hansi Flick, who on the same year won the Champions League with Bayern Munich. He was actually the assistant coach. He took over when the manager got fired and essentially just took them to superstardom. Like he revolutionized the team by just playing a very German style of football that suited everyone. And essentially he got the national team gig as a result. And it was a meteoric rise for him just by keeping things to basics and doing what the Germans like knew themselves. And much like they're in the kind of same situation as Spain, where they're not necessarily favorites. I know Aaron was on earlier on and he was hoping Germany would win. They are an outside shout. And it's only because they have such a dearth of talent coming up that you would hope they might get through. But they're in the same state where they have a lot of players who are old in certain positions. They have no fullbacks, which is very strange for Germany because they used to have great kind of like players like Philipp Lahm, who used to be there as a fullback, and Joshua Kimmich, who is the kind of has been a prodigy at that position now. He now plays in central midfield to kind of to make use of his passing movement. So they're in a kind of headspace. They will top this group between the two, between Spain and Germany. It depends on who wants to top the group, really. Japan are a strange team. They're fun. They're again another perennial kind of like fond favorites of the World Cup. They're teams that you like seeing them there. It's like, yeah, come on, Japan, you know. And they've often had like a player. They're also one for good cult heroes as well. But it's always a case where like as a player you only see in the World Cup. You know, you don't see them anywhere else. And they don't quite have that player in the moment. But what they do have is a more solid team that could actually spring a surprise. I'd say if they were in any other group than Spain or Germany, they probably would get to the round of 16. There's weaker groups out there, but my God, these poor guys are just going to get trounced by Spain and Germany. Unfortunately, they're not going to get through. But they are fun to watch. They've got good talent, and another team that very young and exciting talent as well. It's just this is more like the bad luck of the draw for Japan, really. And this has kind of been the case for a while, for them as well.
True.
And I think the last team in this group then are Costa Rica, and they won't really have anything in this one really. Their best player actually is Keylor Neves, who is their goalkeeper, who's played for Real Madrid and now plays for PSG. So two of the best teams in Europe. Brilliant goalkeeper, like genuinely one of the best in the world, and has been for quite some time. Not necessarily for being the kind of Neuer style, but just being really, really good at the basics of goalkeeping. But unfortunately, you're not going to win a World Cup or get through a group with just a solid goalkeeper. You do actually need to score goals and to defend well, and Costa Rica can't do either. They just don't have the players, unfortunately. Although they are actually famous for doing what we would call an Italia 90. Their Italia 90 moment came in the 2014 World Cup, where they were in the same group as Italy and Uruguay and England, and they managed to qualify for the round of 16 out of that. They actually managed to get through with Uruguay. So England got knocked out. They were bottom of that group, as was Italy. So Costa Rica beat Italy, and they drew with England and managed to qualify for the round of 16 from that. And then I think they won their round of 16 tie. I want to say Spain, but I'm wrong. Definitely wrong with that. But they did topple the giant to get to the quarterfinals. And hilariously enough, there was this kind of wonderful comparison someone did where they went to like the capital of Costa Rica and saw people jumping themselves at the fountains, just fucking elated with joy. And it's a kind of a comparison to us in Italia 90 with us doing the exact same thing. So it was almost transformative to them as it was to us for our own kind of memories as well. But again, they don't have the catchment to sustain it. In a sense, they might have one or two players that you might have heard of from European teams, but they just don't have enough. But they always seem to get to the World Cup. They always seem to do well. So we shall see with Costa Rica, but they're in a bad group for their purposes anyway. What have we got left? Group F, G, and H. Right, I'll rattle through these real quickly. So Belgium, right. Belgium had a golden generation. They have, on paper, some of the biggest names in world football in terms of individuals. So you've got names you would have heard of like De Bruyne, Lukaku, Mertens, Courtois, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Hazard. I nearly forgot him, and his brother Torgan Hazard as well. So they have dynasties in this team, actual properly brilliant players that in any other team, like these players have won Champions League and Premier Leagues combined. It's a brilliant team on paper. The problem is Belgium have not won anything with this team, and that's a shocker, really. There's various different reasons for it. A lot of them blame the coaches they had at the time, just didn't get the best out of them, which is kind of what ended up being the case. And the sad thing is now this team have all kind of grown old together. They're now, I think, average age of 29 to 30. All their best players are 30. Over 30 even, and they don't quite have the young players yet to replace them. So they're in a bit of a halfway house at the minute. I would say this team would be very vulnerable to an upset, is what I would say. Which does happen in World Cups, and it's always very interesting to see who. I put Croatia in that same boat as well. Croatia got to the World Cup final sensationally last time out. They got beaten by France in the end, but they had a fantastic campaign to do so. One of the best midfielders ever to play the game was Luka Modric, who I couldn't really describe as a kind of a like a numerical position. He just is a fantastic worker in the midfield. He's a tireless runner, but he's also a brilliant passer of the ball, like what would be called a playmaker. So not only does he win the ball back, but he also is able to play the ball through and find the perfect pass for somebody. And he's had players that kind of like marry with him alongside. So Croatia have like one of the best midfields ever in who they have at the moment, Brozovic and Kovacic. They have three tireless runners in the midfield, and they just keep the ball rolling. So anyone who tries to beat Croatia has to try and trap that midfield together, but they can't because they're so squirrely in a weird way. It's very hard to describe because they just keep moving to like constantly. They have decent strikers. They have okay defenders, very old defenders that can be beaten, and the goalkeepers aren't great shakes. So all their points, if you will, are in midfield. But they also win games with their midfield. That's the thing, because they're so good. They're in the same boat as Belgium, where they have some young talent coming through, but not enough. So two very old teams kind of duking it out, basically, in a very kind of weird Legends of Wrestling style fight. So that's kind of compared with Canada, who I suppose has been like the most exciting team to watch. I know Neil was bigging them up there before he left, and rightfully so, because they have like serious amounts of talent in the team. They demolished the qualifications for North and Central America, top in the groups, and got kind of good seeding from that. They got a bit dicked over the group, I'm not going to lie, because any other group, again, much like Japan, they would have completely impressed. But they have two particular players who's going to break out. Alphonso Davies is one who plays for left back in Bayern Munich. So he plays as a defender for Bayern Munich, but for his national team, he plays as a left winger, as in striker. So it's just because he is so fast in a straight line that they use him for his speed, and he has a goal in him as well. It also helps that they actually do have a good left back that does the same job for them. So it means he can be moved up and have a left back do the same job. The other player that they rely on is Jonathan David, who plays in France for a team called Lille, and he's averaging about a goal every 2 games. Like, he's a stellar striker. He's a fantastic forward. And they've basically been able to build a team around those two. They have other players coming through now as well that's going to basically complement them, and they're all playing in good leagues and for good teams. So they're definitely one to watch for sure. Like, they are not in the dark horse category yet. They need to get out of this group first. But I think if they do get out of it, then they will be trouble for a lot of teams, because they play that certain high pressure.
They have the ability to be like,
Oh, they're very energetic, high pressure, high intensity. Which doesn't often do well in World Cups, but I'd like to see them book the trend, you know. Morocco are unfortunately going to be bottom of this group, only by virtue of the fact that the other 3 teams are fucking brilliant. Unfortunately. Their kind of like main kind of strengths are in their 2 let us know if they have 2 of the best right backs in the world, in Ashraf Hakimi, who plays for PSG, and Ephraim Nazuri, who plays for Ajax. So 2 European powerhouses. They both play right back, which means that one of them has to switch to the opposite side to get them both on the field. They have a few decent players in between, so they are a better team that kind of looks that better team on paper, but they don't play well. Unfortunately, they're another one that kind of took advantage of a really poor African contingent this year, and they will be kind of unfortunate in this one. But ones to watch will definitely be Hakimi. He's a brilliant right back. He is so fast, very good at crossing, and scores goals from long distance. So he's definitely one to watch if we ever do watch a Moroccan game. And Nazuri on the opposite side is very, very decent too. So at least it'd be an entertaining watch for that alone. So Group G then, Brazil. Your pick for the World Cup, Foxy. Shockingly enough, I don't know why you picked Brazil. Strange option, I don't know. They are favourites. They themselves and Argentina are going to duke it out for the World Cup, in my opinion. Which is a shame, because going by the paths, they're probably going to meet in the semi-final. So whoever wins that match will probably win the whole lot. Brazil have had a strange kind of time of it where they've relied solely on Neymar to be their kind of talisman. Famously, in the World Cup they hosted in 2014, they put all of their hopes on Neymar to be the winner, the hero of the country. But it was kind of a deflection from how really bad that team was. It was probably the worst Brazil team in a 50, 60 years. There was no talent. Everyone was gone. No Ronaldinho's, no Ronaldo's, no Roberto Carlos's or Cafu's. They were all gone. It was just Neymar, and they needed to rely on him to win the whole lot. And what happened was he got injured in the quarterfinals. And this had such an impact on the team that when they tugged out for the semi-final against Germany, they held out a Neymar jersey as if he had died. It was quite frankly pathetic to what they'd done. They had literally held him out as if he had been shot dead by fucking paramilitaries, the way they carried on. So they did this kind of like tribute to him before the match against Germany. They lost that match 7-1. Which is still
7-1.
which is historically the worst performance ever in a semi-final. This was at home, by the way. This was in the Maracanã in Rio. They were 5-0 down at halftime, Foxy.
In
Never
their own
happened.
home.
In their own home. In the World Cup they were hosting, right? So this obviously kind of like was such a system shock. This was like this the septic shock that they needed. So in that time, they have completely thrown the baby out with the bathwater. So the head coach was gone. They brought in a new person who said, right, forget this defensive football. Get rid of all these fucking defensive jobbers we've had, like trying to like deflect from the team. Let's get exciting players in. And over time, they have started to eke away that rot. Get away from the dependence they have on Neymar and start like building the team around. So now, after 10, 15 years of having terrible goalkeepers, they now have two to choose from in Alisson and Ederson. Alisson plays for Liverpool and Ederson plays for Man City. And they're both equally as good as each other. The problem is you can only pick one, which is the trouble. But they have quality everywhere. They have good centre backs, they have good fullbacks, midfielders, forwards. They are spoiled for choice when it comes to that. It is literally just down to who's going to score the most goals first, and that's who picks their team. It just depends on them performing, really. Neymar's in the form of his life again. You also have players who are coming into their form domestically as well. So to just perhaps even because the World Cup is in December, it actually might suit the fact that they're going into it now, as opposed to in the summer where they might cool off, because they certainly won't fucking cool off in Qatar, that's for sure. So there's two very interesting teams in this group as well that I think I noted as potential dark horses as well, in Serbia and Switzerland. They're very, very similar on paper in that they're physical power horses. They are big, burly, aggressive men. And legit, the match that they will have could actually count as some level of fucking ECW match. Like this is like ECW meeting CZW, okay? And I'll let you decide which is which, because they're two very different flavors, but still in the same ballpark. You know what I mean? So Switzerland have sprung surprises on people before. They famously knocked out France in the Euros last season. A couple of years ago in the Euros, and in the last World Cup, I think they got to round of 16 as well. This team have kind of grown up together, like a good, strong generation of Swiss players, and they've just been able to pepper one or two good young players in between. But ultimately, this team have grown old together a little bit. This will probably be the last World Cup where there'll be a genuine threat, This players I can kind of pick out in that team would be Granit Xhaka, who was the captain at Arsenal before he threw a strop and lost the captaincy. But in the last couple of years, he's had a bit of a renaissance. He's kind of tempered his aggression a little bit, and he's a great leader for Switzerland in particular. He plays superb for his country. Another player I can throw in here would be Xherdan Shaqiri, who is 5'6" and built like a fucking bodybuilder. He's such a strange body shape when you see him. He's going like, how the fuck can he move like that? But he's just packed full of muscle and grit and gristle more than anything else. He makes it work. He played for a couple of prominent teams when he was younger, but never, for whatever reason, can never make it click. But again, for his country, he plays superbly, and he's their kind of playmaker. They've now, in that time, added their goalkeeper, Jan Sommer, is in the form of his life as well. I think he set a record this season in club football for making the most saves in one game in 16. So he made 16 saves in one game for his team Mönchengladbach, and they ended up drawing 0-0 in that game. So he actually actively earned a point for making so many saves. And they now have a new striker in Breland Bolo, who is a pure pacey counter-attacker, just like, lift the ball over to him, he'll chase and he'll score. Very quick in a straight line. So they have threats now as opposed to just being physically domineering. Serbia, on the other hand, we were in the same group as them. They demolished us, quite frankly. They have great technical players in midfield. One in particular is called Milinkovic Savic, who plays for Lazio. Great on a ball, just puts it down, plays, and is a great talisman as well. But their real strengths are their strikers. All very similar in that they are brick shit houses and they will kick the lumps out of you. Alexander Mitrovic plays for Fulham, and he is that type of mold. Then you have his kind of protege, if you will, in Dusan Vlahovic, plays for Juventus. after having a great season last year. And he plays a similar style. And I think there is another player who is momentarily slipped my mind. Zakovic, I think his name is. Yes, who's a similar style. And Nikola Vlasic as well. So they have 4 very different options basically for strikers. All very similar, all aerial threats, all set piece artists as well. So they'll come in from corners and free kicks and win balls that way. But yeah, their midfield and forwards are very strong. Defense and goalkeeping, not so much. That's where they're going to struggle a little bit. But again, because they have such physical power in the team, they might get away with it up to a certain point. I reckon they'll probably get out of this group between them and Switzerland. But the match between them and Switzerland is going to be a brawl. And whoever wins that match gets through, essentially. Yeah, I think it comes down to that. Cameroon is left in that group then as another African team. A good team, quite honestly. They're a fun team to watch. A lot of players that play in the Premier League or in strong leagues, but they just don't quite have enough again to challenge the likes of Brazil. They might spring a surprise on a Serbia or Switzerland. Like those 2 European teams are hoping to beat Cameroon automatically. It's not guaranteed because there is a strong spine to that team. Especially probably their best player at the moment is Zamba Anguissa, who plays for Napoli. Just 6'3", like fucking long stride. He's able to like break up play and then make the pass as well. Kind of like what I mentioned about Modric. He does a similar job at the minute, but he's more of a destroyer than the playmaker, if you will. Because he has someone who plays alongside him to do that job for him. So he's able to complement it. They play very simple football, but effective football. Basically, it's like 4 defenders, 4 midfielders, 2 strikers, and fucking off you go. And again, they use their athleticism, they use their strength, their ability. So, in a weird way, Brazil are in a group with 3 like very physical teams. You know, they don't quite have the same kind of like convenience as Argentina do, where they could outmuscle Mexico and Poland and Saudi Arabia. Brazil have to work for this. You know.
It's not a clear cut like normal like previous tournaments might have been.
Yeah, kind of. Like they still will top the group, but they're going to come out with bruises, kind of way. They're going to get a black eye out of it, but it'll toughen them up for the group, I suppose. Right, last group then you'll be relieved to hear is Group H then. So the big team in this group is Portugal, right? Obviously dominated by Cristiano Ronaldo. And friends, essentially. So Ronaldo has always had this kind of advantage over Messi in the kind of argument of who has the biggest cock, essentially. Ronaldo has won the Euros with Portugal, whereas Messi has never won the Copa America with Argentina. Now, that's firmly balanced now because Messi has finally won that for Argentina. But shockingly enough, Ronaldo has never won the World Cup for Portugal. So now both players are kind of in the same situation here. And wonderfully enough, because of how the draw has been laid out, it is possible to get an Argentina versus Portugal final. So you might actually have Messi versus Ronaldo to decide the World Cup winner. And going by their ages, it's the last World Cup for both of these players. This is their last chance to win a World Cup for their team, with their national team. And Argentina are in a good place at the moment to do it. Portugal, not so much. So this is where it gets interesting because Portugal on paper has one of the best sides in the world. They have 3 of best brilliant goalkeepers all around the same level. They have fantastic fullbacks, fantastic centre backs, kind of in the same way like Brazil or Argentina. On paper, they look superb, look brilliant, erudite, technically gifted, powerful, great players like Bernardo Silva, who is a tireless worker. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for it. Then you have these new players coming in like Andre Silva and Rafael Leao. They're 2 strikers. They play like wingers, essentially, to feed Ronaldo, who plays dead center. Since he's been in his 30s, he just doesn't have the mileage in him anymore. But the trouble is that sounds fantastic in your head, and you're watching that team play, and then you see how they play in real life, and then go, how the fuck have you lost 1-0? Kind of way. They play a really negative style of football that has actually held them back for years, for absolute fucking years. This team is desperate to be let loose to actually play attacking style football. But the person the Portuguese FA have had for their coach is such a negative Nancy. He's just is a wet wipe of a coach. I don't rate him at all. It's kind of the same problem that Gareth Southgate is having in England, where he's just so defensive and negative, where he doesn't use his talent there.
He's so opposite to what the team is actually strongest at.
It's literally like contrarian football almost. It's like, you want me to play attacking football, well then, do you know what? I'm going to put 10 men behind the ball and have Ronaldo up front. It's like, no, that's not what we're asking. We're asking you to do the opposites. Like, like when you have all the talent there and you don't use it, it's very frustrating, especially from an outsider looking in. And Portugal are there at the moment. It could come together if they just let go of the reins. This team could win the World Cup easily. But it's because of the coach and the really overpowering stench of Ronaldo at this stage, because he's actively politicking for a move out of Man United. He's getting sued by the club at the minute. He's had this fucking interview with Piers Morgan as well that's gone down like a fucking shit on a desk. So he is at risk of tearing the Portuguese camp apart, realistically speaking. And considering the teams that are in that group, Portugal are vulnerable to that collapse, I think. Because the team I actually have earmarked as dark horses are in this as well, in Uruguay. So Uruguay, funny enough, have won the World Cup twice, in 1938 and 1942. So they won the first ever World Cup. Yeah. Weirdly enough, but they actually host the World Cup, the first one as well. Again, for a very, very small country, they produce some fabulous footballers. And recently they're starting to develop more. They probably have one of the best midfielders at the moment in Federico Valverde, who plays for Real Madrid. Actually won the Champions League for them most recently by scoring a winning goal against Liverpool. They also have just a very, very solid midfield in Rodrigo de Paul, who plays in Spain, and Rodrigo Bentancur, who plays there. So the three of them work really, really well together. Same kind of thing when you have a midfield three. If the teamwork is very good and they all play for each other, it all clicks into gear. They have decent defenders, probably not the best in the world. One of them is Diego Godin, who is now 38, I think. Was a empirical defender to go up against, but now obviously age is catching up on him, and he needs someone young to play beside him to basically run after everything. So I think Jose Gimenez is that player, if I remember correctly. But the real kind of like stars, if you want to call it that, are their strikers, right? So they've had a penchant of creating a crazy mentalist striker every couple of years. And it's just by kind of wonder of coincidence that you have all three for this World Cup. So one is Edison Cavani, who is this kind of like very physically gifted target man, who also like he's sculpted of marble. When you look at him, if you've ever seen him with his jersey off, he's sculpted of marble. He just looks in such tremendous shape, but his fitness has never been 100%. But he runs like hell. He chases down every ball. But he's now 35 and he still runs the way he does. Is actually quite impressive. Then you have Luis Suarez, who famously has bitten opponents on 3 different occasions. Yep. And has also been accused of racism. So he's a bit of what I would say is a wild card, is what I would say. But the thing about him is that he's a fucking mercurial footballer. Like, he has a kind of what I would call like a Maradona streak, where you don't quite know what he's going to do next. And I don't think he knows either. But he just relies on such natural talent that just the ball will do what he wants to do. It was one season where he was playing for Liverpool and he scored 34 goals in a season, which no one has ever been able to achieve since. It is a scary amount of goals to score in a season.
Is that almost like an idiot savant kind of thing?
Yeah, a little bit. Like it's what happens when a streetwise kid becomes a professional footballer, and that's always been the point of football, is for a kid in poverty to learn what he's done on the streets and apply it in a football game. Especially in South America, you get players like that all the time. It's just so rare when you see someone so psychopathic in Suarez that it just works for him, and that amplifies his game. Then, he's just hyper. But again, he's now 37. And he's only recently flown back to Uruguay to play for his hometown in Nacional. So he is in the twilight of his career. So he will play more like the static role, where he'll be kind of like lurking in the penalty box and putting chances away, because now his kind of successor, if you will, is Darwin Núñez, who plays for Liverpool now. But his breakout season was last year, and he plays like complete and utter chaos. He's got that kind of streak where like I don't know what he's going to do next, and neither does he. And that's what makes the team so unpredictable, because he will do something great. Like he has remarkable speed for a player that's 6'2". Like he just sprints down the line, and he means that you can kind of lump a ball over a midfield and defense to him, and he'll be able to take it away. So that's why I think makes the Uruguay team very, very interesting, because they have so many diverse options up front. So you don't necessarily have to play all those three. You could mix and match. But if you play all three, you're unleashing hell on whatever poor fuckers you have on the opponent's side.
It'll make for an interesting match anyway.
It was a very interesting match. Like Portugal-Uruguay is going to be spicy for that reason alone. Elsewhere in the group, you've got Ghana, who have been pulling a bit of an Ireland. They've been using the grandmother rule to great advantage to recruit players to play for Ghana. Some players who previously declared they were English, like Tariq Lamptey, is now playing for Ghana. They had a player called Callum Hudson-Odoi on the books as well, but he changed his mind, hilariously enough. And another player who has recently played for Spain, in Inaki Williams, is now playing for Ghana. So they're trying to basically build a team around naturalized players and hoping that more people would come to play for their maternal country, essentially. It's kind of working for them, because those like signings, if you want to call them that, are actually working for the team. It's making them better. And not a moment too soon either, because they have a team that's like getting horrendously old, and they don't have the talent to replace them. The one to watch actually from that Ghana team will be a player called Mohamed Kudus. Don't play for me. I voted for Kudus, but he plays for Ajax. He's a box-to-box midfielder, and he scores an unnatural amount of goals from that position. Like he's that typical player that like what's called a 1-2. He starts with the move, passes someone else, they pass back, and he scores. He is the master of that at the moment. And then you have the two Ayew brothers, who are the sons of the perhaps the best player ever to play for Ghana, in Padre Ayew. He is Papa Ayew, I think his name is. And Jordan and Andre have basically shared the captaincy for the Ghana side for about 15 years. So they have a monopoly on it. It's literally like a dynasty in Ghana for these three. And so they're starting to get old. They're not playing as well domestically, so it's not quite working out for them. But Ghana and Uruguay are going to be a very interesting game, because in the quarterfinals of the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, Ghana were on course to be the first ever team from Africa to get to the semifinals of a World Cup, until Luis Suarez, who I mentioned before, deliberately handballed on the line to prevent a certain goal. So he took the red flag, or the red card as the champ. Ghana got a penalty, and the penalty got saved.
Oh.
And Uruguay ended up winning the game on penalties. Yeah. So that was a kick in the balls. But so Ghana, I don't think have ever really forgiven Luis Suarez since then.
No. Same way we never forgotten Thierry Henry.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I still see people wearing Fuck Scalacci shirts to this day. I don't know where I would have seen that before, but no, it's a real mystery. But I even said this to Kira at the time, you wore that shirt with complete out of context, which was even funnier. But yeah, so Ghana's game against Uruguay is going to be very, very exciting for that reason alone. And the last team in this group then is Korea. Again, they often get through to the World Cup just by virtue of the seeding and the qualifications. But Korea are usually a very, very good team. Just a well organized, good, very defensive. They have in the last few years had a secret weapon in Heung-min Son, but he's not very secret anymore now. He's been playing for Spurs for the last couple of years. He's by far the best player. He's probably the best player in Asia, realistically speaking. Especially last year where he had his best season yet. I can't remember his exact stats, but I think he got about 20 goals. He doesn't play striker outright. He plays left wing, and he does what's called the underlap, which is essentially he starts off running here, and then he cuts inside towards the penalty box, and starts making a run and scores kind of diagonally, like a cross goal essentially. So that's his kind of type of style. What he would normally do is he would kind of wait for a ball to go long to him. He'd start running like full speed for the ball to land at his feet, and he starts then his one-on-one
crossing in and then actually.
Exactly, yeah. Now Korea tend to play him as an outright striker because he is just their best player outright. But I think they now have someone else who's going to play in that number 9 position, so he can play in his more natural role. But they're a well-coached team. They have one or two new kind of players coming in. I think one is called Kim Il-jae, who is playing for Napoli at the moment, who's like a 6'4" center back, which is unnaturally tall for a Korean player. And I think they have another player called, I think he's called Moon, I think his surname is, and he plays for in midfield. So a lot of kind of players in particular, or teams are scouting him in particular to see how he does in this World Cup. So they have the starting of another generation in Korea, but it's kind of the same thing where Son, seeing how he can kind of like inspire a generation, we won't know until about like 2 or 3 more World Cups time, really. But it's a good team, very defensive, well coached. So they're not guaranteed to be walkovers, in a sense, especially if Son is playing well, because they were shitting themselves last week, Korea, thinking he might not play because he got a fractured cheekbone. But he's gonna heal up in time. He's gonna be wearing a mask, basically like a fucking Zorro mask for the first few games, so he should be fine. And that's all the groups, Foxy. I think you're covered when it comes to the World Cup, when it comes to football. Are you swayed in terms of are you still opting for Brazil, or are you has someone else tempted you in our diatribe? Have you got a second team you'd like to follow?
Well, obviously Brazil was the one that I kind of touted for. There's been a lot of teams that you kind of like, especially with being like potentially a wild card kind of like team. But I don't know, actually, to be honest. Like, I don't know. Like, I would like to have a secondary, like, than a team to kind of keep my eye on as well.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure because, like, I did originally want to say, like, oh yeah, maybe Japan, but like, but
Japan would be good watch, in fairness. Like, it'd be nice. They'll have a very underdog quality to them if they're going to be in with Germany and Spain. You know, like they will need the support, put it that way.
True.
You know, that'd be one way I look at it. There are definitely a few teams you could kind of pick as underdogs, and then teams that you actually do want to do well too. You know, teams that have a good chance of being a surprise, because like most World Cups, this is a very unusual World Cup, so anything could fucking happen. Like, anyone could win this, in a sense, because it's so weird, so shady, like backroom deals and stuff like that. So like there could be a very weird conclusion to this, but hopefully
it could be none of the teams we expect.
That's exactly it. Like, you know, like the players are in very uncharted waters and they don't like it. So it'd be interesting to see who would rather just go home early and have an actual Christmas to themselves. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it'd be interesting anyway. You certainly picked the right time to get into football, Foxy, I must say. Very simple, uncomplicated times to be a football fan.
Yeah, of course I picked the most awkward fucking time to actually like do it.
Yeah.
Well, not the most awkward like time. It's more the most awkward fucking World Cup to pick.
It's hard to explain the layers to it, yeah, because even football fans can't understand. So like, you'd be doing well yourself to try and grasp the puppeteering behind the whole thing. But it's an interesting topic at the very least, you know.
I think I'll have a little bit of a head start because like then we've been dealing with that with wrestling. So
this is very true. There is a lot of crossover. Very lot of crossover. So yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, kind of like the problem started with the wrestling side. Yeah, they're more overblown here. So
yes. Yeah, exactly. Football is ahead of you by a couple of yards. So, but yeah. So, are you now excited for the World Cup now? Are you in the mood? Are you World Cup ready? Do you think?
I don't know if I'm ready, but I definitely am excited. I am looking forward to watching through as much as I can physically.
Yeah.
And not only that, just to try and enjoy it, really. Like, and I do hope that like people do follow along with this journey, as it were, so where we like react to it or give our thoughts on it.
Yes, exactly.
Which is different for me. I'm way out of my element, so yeah.
Yes.
So
we're gonna have to mansplain football to you. It's gonna be very exciting.
So the wrestling like terminologies are really fucking helping. So I really appreciate that.
I thought they would be, in fairness. So yeah.
You just have to remember that we've been watching football for all of our lives.
Yeah.
We've built up this knowledge over years. Don't expect yourself to remember everything immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
There's been a lot of information thrown at you today.
Yeah. Oh God, a lot. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot of different players' names that I actually have no clue of now.
Remember.
It's like not a chance. I'm more impressed of like how you remember the names for each fucking team, especially being like a combination team.
We're nerds for a reason, Foxy. Like
you'll also see there's a different level of knowledge.
Yes.
As well. Like I don't remember a lot of the stuff they know.
No, but you can see a good game. You can read it. You can read a game very well.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Like sometimes, like you like football is a very visual sport. You can sometimes tell if a team is doing badly or badly or doing really well. You can tell the scoreline, but even sometimes just the way like if you see a team having the ball more often,
you can see a goal coming.
You can see, exactly. Like typically it does, but then if you know a team enjoys being defensive, you can go, you need to put these guys away. They're gonna snap. They're gonna strike, and lo and behold, what happens? And then sometimes just something's gonna happen that's so fucking weird that you can't explain it. Because at the end, football is still a very like undeniable sport. Something weird's gonna happen, and we'll try and flops, yeah. Or sometimes just teams are humans. Like they will not necessarily succeed. We do have VAR, yeah.
So that's gonna cause other controversy.
That's another lesson in of itself, yeah. So
that's a future problem.
Yes,
that's a future problem.
We'll explain that live, I think.
But I
yes.
Yeah, like I am excited because like especially getting with the different perspectives that my friends are coming in and actually going to give from. Like obviously user fans that have watched it for years. You'll have the likes of Dave jumping in, who's like a fucking coach. Like so, it's just it makes sense. We'll get a completely different perspective there.
Yes.
Than anyone else that jumps in. Like especially hearing. I do like hearing like the back and forth between like people that know what they're talking about, and then just actually debating about certain things. Yeah, so it's fun to hear that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Indeed, we're looking forward to it too, Foxy. It's nice to bring someone new along for the ride. The World Cup is like the best time to get stuck into football because you just get engrossed into it and enjoy the matches for what they are, and
something crazy will happen that everybody's going to talk about. Like it'll be something random. Like South Africa, it wasn't football; it was vuvuzelas.
Yes.
So
true. Oh, the fucking horns! Like there will be something. There's always something with World Cups.
Like, it's a great time to convert people to football.
It is. And you're very lucky because not only have you got a World Cup in the winter, you've got a Women's World Cup in the summer as well. So you have 2 World Cups to look forward to this year. So there you go.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Which doesn't normally happen. There's normally 2 years between them.
Yeah. It's just from the women's game kind of follows the men's game by a year. And it's only by virtue of the fact that obviously the Winter World Cup happens now than anything else. But still silver lining to it all.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, like hopefully the people at home that watch this will join us on the journey, or will at least go and watch it. Who knows? But
Yeah, absolutely.
again, there's been a lot of information.
Yes.
A lot of information, and
you probably want to rewatch the second half at least for the groups before they get stuck in. You know?
Or even the TIFO.
The TIFOs are very good as well. Yeah,
it's a lot shorter, but a lot more condensed.
Yeah.
Information about the groups.
Yes.
So it might be a better watch.
Yes.
Than all of the information that was thrown at you. You might actually be able to absorb more from the TIFO, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So that is completely fair. But yeah. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Thank my friends for jumping in and trying to educate me and prime me for almost like I'm becoming a cut of fucking meat or something like that. It's like better go to the slaughter. It's just like, you're gonna be my future steak. There you go. No, but
sweet, delicious Foxy steak.
Are you saying you killed Jimbo Jones, cooked him, and then you're feeding him to all of us?
Oh dear.
Anyway.
No,
but again, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you on this journey of the World Cup. So until then, peace out.
Good night, everybody.
Like, share, subscribe.
Do the YouTube stuff. Very important.